Hi, everybody. I have 5 minutes to tell you so much, so let's see how much can I tell you about it. Okay. So the idea of this talk is to talk a little bit about the future of service mesh. So what does it mean? So why are we all here? We're all here because we're excited about the potential. We're excited about what service mesh can give us. It can give us security feature. It can give us observability feature, routing feature. It's all great, right? But what really, really special about what we're hearing here is not what it's actually giving you, but how it's actually doing it. And the way it's actually doing it, if you think about it, is actually by abstracting the network, right? What we're actually doing is we're taking the information, the configuration that usually we put inside the application built in, and we abstract that. And now all the network is basically abstract. So this is pretty powerful, right? And with great power comes great responsibility. Right? So basically, think about what we just did. We just took all those network, and you're giving it to us, the service mesh provider, to actually handle that. What will happen if someone will push their own configuration? Your data center is done, right? No application, nothing is there. So the real question that we need to ask ourselves as a community is, how do we make sure that our service mesh is resilient? Because that's really, really scary, right? So there is a lot of things that we can do about it, right? Like, for instance, there's some stuff, that patent that already exists in the market. For instance, first of all, let's make it simple. And that's what we did with SMI, right? So Michelle talked to before me. This is something that we help push. SMI is something that taking the configuration of the mesh and just basically taking 80% of this functionality and make it damn simple for the user to use, right? That simple API, that was our driven. So that's already we're going to make it a little bit easier, because if it's simpler, it's easy, right? Therefore, less error prone. The second thing that we did, we specifically in Solo announced last year a Service Mesh Hub. Service Mesh Hub is everything that you need to do in order to manage any service mesh. So it will install it, it's going to discover if you already install it, it's going to manage it, and it's going to group meshes together, no matter which type they are, and treat them as one big mesh. But in the nutshell, what they're actually doing is making sure that we actually care about the validation, right? We want to make sure that what the configuration that we're letting you do, we're kind of like putting a guardrail, right? We're making sure that what you're doing is actually makes sense. Besides that, we're actually also giving you the ability to troubleshoot it and bring all the logs from everywhere, including all the way for Envoy, and actually bring it back to you, right? So every service mesh, no matter which one, we can group them together, we can give them one, treat them as one, and then we can also make sure that the configuration is not bad. So that's the number second that can actually help us. The third one is GateOps, and Service Mesh Hub is actually come built in with this out of the box. This is the ability of actually making sure that the configuration of your service mesh, it's actually being treated as actually code, right? How do we treating code if it's that important to us? We have a repository that we're storing there. We're never pushing directly to master, right? First, we actually pull requests, and there is reviewers, and only then, and that's giving us kind of like the compliance, right? To make sure that we're not going crazy, that nothing slip. So all of this is actually really, really useful, right? That's to make your mesh resilient. But if we're looking at all those approach, there's something common between all of them. And that's the ability that they're all driven by the user themselves. Right? The user itself say, I want to change my configuration. Now, why does he need to change the configuration? He needed to change the configuration because of the environment, right? So either someone pushed something to GitHub, or someone, some metric change in your environment, or some pod died, right? So what do? You need to change the configuration to actually adapt, right, to the new situation. So if you think about it, if you really wanted to actually make your service mesh resilient, what you really need to do is to make it adaptive. That's what you really need, because to be fair, users are great, and I'm a user, but sometimes we're making a mistake, and that's too dangerous right now with the responsibility that we got. Okay, so how do you make your service mesh adaptive, right? And to be fair, this is a pattern that already exists. Let's create operators, right? So we'll create operators and actually going to make sure that those driven, that it's going to snip the environment and base different events that are happening in the environment is going to change the service mesh configuration. So there is a lot of operator frameworks out there. And there's a lot and coming more and coming more. But because they are so low level, because they are kind of like all-purpose operators, they make it a little bit harder to actually build them. So I'm really, really proud to announce today a new open source project called Autopilot. And the idea with Autopilot is basically a damn simple SDK that will help you to auto-generate all your code and basically it's coming with hookup with, it's very opinionated, right? It's opinionated for service mesh, which means that it's coming hook up to the metrics of your environment to actually configure your mesh, and therefore it's built in all the library inside. It's auto-generate your code, and basically the only thing that you as a user need to actually write is the brain, is the rule, is what to do when. So this is an open source project. We just open source it. Look at it. It's written in Go. I think it's just, in the nutshells, operator is not new, but we're always building more and more, and everybody's creating a new pattern. And this is, I think operator is a little bit was late to the game because people already build operator for Kubernetes. But guess what? This ecosystem is pretty new. And there's a lot of people who's going to write operators. And we specifically built this project internally because we are building operator. And I can tell you that we actually streamlined from 2 months project to a day, because we actually already implement all those patterns. So really check it out. I think it's something that will help everybody to drive their meshes. So again, just I will summarize because I have 5 minutes. What's actually Autopilot? What's special about Autopilot? So the first thing, it's already come built in with snooping all your metrics and opinion metrics for the service mesh itself. It's going to snoop webhooks and deployment and CRDs, basically, right? The second thing that it's going to do is going to drive your configuration. So for instance, for STO, we build a builder pattern. We thought that it's easier if you have a builder pattern to actually configure the mesh. The other thing, as I said, is either expose or invoke a webhooks. It's provided out-of-the-box Gix experience. So when you actually writing your rule, you have a flag, and you can say, do I actually want it to go all the way and configure the mesh, or what I actually want is first to check into Git and get some approval for it. So kind of like it's building with a flip of a flag. And the last one I would say, again, it's all about the workflow, right? You're doing something, you're moving to the next, you're moving to the next, you're moving to the next, and you're making sure that all this process that operator need to do is being done. So go check it out. We are Solo. Love to get your feedback mainly and hear about your use case for building operator. Thanks so much.